Good afternoon or a good evening, depending on where you are in this nation of ours. I want to say hello to all my fellow Americans, countrymen. We seem to be in a state of chaos, and there's a lot of people on the internet that are coming up with a lot of ideas about a reset, global reset, financial reset, government reset. Nobody seems to be really paying attention to what's the problem. And the problem is pretty intense. What most Americans don't realize is for about the last 150 years, 160 years, we've been lied to. Now, for those that don't know me, which is most of you, I would imagine, I spent 30 years, plus or minus, in intelligence. So I know a thing or two. But what started all of it was studying a document. The document was called the Constitution. I had to study it in order to take an oath to protect it. There was a general a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, that came on. He was on YouTube, and he was talking about the differences between the American military and other militaries around the world. And I want to elaborate a little bit on that so that you'll understand. The American military, all branches, take an oath not to protect the country, not to protect the government, not to protect Congress, not to protect the states. We don't even take an oath to protect we the people. We take an oath very specifically to protect a document. And that document is the Constitution of the United States. Nothing else. Now, of course, the Constitution has a lot of things, has a lot of statements that are made in it, talking about protecting the rights and all that other stuff. But specifically, the only thing I took an oath to protect was the Constitution. To protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I'm sure most of you understand that. Well, we have many domestic enemies now, and they're parading around as government officials. Our Constitution was founded in 1787. It lasted about 90 years. About 1868, a Scottish company, under the authority of the King, the throne of England, came to the United States, and they established a corporation in Washington, D.C. Nothing too strange about that. They called the corporation United States of America Incorporated. Interestingly enough, Congress unilaterally decided in 1871, under the 1871 Act, to adopt this corporation and turn the United States of America, the Republic, into a corporation. Was that constitutional? No. Did they have the authority to do that? No. But they did it anyway. And there were some hits and misses. In 1874, they kind of had to throw it out. 1877, they reinstated it. But by and large, since 1871, we've been operating under a corporation. Of course, nobody knew this because they didn't tell anybody. And then they said, here's the Constitution of this corporation, which is nothing more than the bylaws of the corporation. Now, there's something very specific that they did, and this was all, you have to remember, this was all during, at the beginning of it anyway, the presidency of Abraham Lincoln. Now, Abraham Lincoln was an attorney, so he knew damn good and well what the Constitution was all about. In 1810 and 1812, there was a 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment was an amendment about nobility. I have it here so that you can refer to it. It's the original 13th Amendment to the Constitution for the United States of America. Now there's a very interesting point right there. When you are referring to the Constitution, if you say Constitution of the United States of America, that's the corporation. If you're referring to the Constitution for the United States of America, that's the 1787 Constitution. You see? So the other thing that you need to understand is when the Founding Fathers wrote the title to the Constitution, it was real basic English. Constitution was capitalized. The word for wasn't. The wasn't. United wasn't. States was capitalized. Of wasn't. And America was capitalized. Upper and lower case. No capitalization across the board. When you look at the Constitution of the corporation and its printed name, you see that it's all capitalized. Constitution of the United States of America. That means it's part of the corporation. Just like the capitalization of our names are all because they created corporations in our name without our consent. Now, I can give you that little piece of information as a bonus. Go look at your birth certificate. It'll have the date that you actually were born, and then on the bottom it'll have the date that it was recorded or registered. The date that it was recorded and registered is when they created the corporation in your name. That's how come every government document that you get is all capitalized. Because they can't deal with a flesh and blood person, man, woman, child. They have to deal with a corporation, corporation to corporation. This is why, under the corporation, we do not have rights, we have privileges. Get it? Because under the corporation, we are not flesh and blood beings. You want to disturb a judge someday, you get into court, put your thumbprint in blood on the paper. They'll go completely insane. Because they can't deal with a flesh and blood person. All they can deal with is the fiction of the corporation. So that's a little free gift. There's enough information on the internet that anybody that really wants to pay attention can learn the rest of that. I want to take you to back to the original 13th Amendment. Hold on a second, let me get my phone to work here. Because I got it on my screen here. Okay. The original 13th Amendment. Now, I'm going to direct you to the state of New Hampshire. And the reason I want you to go to the state of New Hampshire is I want you to look up New Hampshire House Bill 638. In 2013, state of New Hampshire decided to check into the question of the missing 13th Amendment. And lo and behold, they found out that it had been lawfully ratified. So the original 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which had lawfully been ratified, which caused, by the way, the burning down of Washington, D.C. in 1812 because they were trying to hide the record, trying to get rid of it. Why would they want to get rid of it? Well, I'll explain it to you. It says, if any citizen of the United States shall accept, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall without the consent of Congress accept and retain any presentment, pension, office, or of any kind whatsoever from an emperor, king, prince, foreign power, shall cease to be citizens of the United States and shall be incapable of holding office. Go and look it up. It's there. It's all over the place. Now, if you go back to the article, the House bill of 638, New Hampshire House Bill 638, they tell you in here, they talk about the fraud of the 1871 Act and how the Congress had no business doing that. They tell you all of the reasons why this didn't work. And this law, this 13th Amendment, was in full force and full power from 1812 to about, 1812 to about 1876, when they finally got rid of it, I believe. And they inserted new language in the 13th Amendment, and that became the Emancipation Amendment, which is what everybody is taught in what? Public schools, i.e. government schools. They've been lying to us for 150 years. Now, if you read and study the House Bill 638, it tells you that they have changed the state constitution to reflect the original 13th Amendment. So here's the deal. Everybody's heard about the deep state, but nobody really understands what the deep state is. I can tell you what the deep state is if you have a moment to listen. The deep state is attorneys, judges, congressmen, anybody in the legal profession, shall we say. You need to really understand the depth of this fraud. When somebody decides they want to become a lawyer, they have to pass the bar. Every state has a bar. California bar, Texas bar. But nobody understands that the word bar is an acronym. It stands for British Accreditation Registry. When they pass the bar, they go under the King's bar, the King's crown, and they get a title of nobility esquire. So the minute that an attorney becomes an attorney and passes the bar, he ceases to be, he or she, a citizen of the United States. And on top of that, according to the 13th Amendment, has no capability of holding office. Interesting. So let's talk about the current situation, current events. Got all kinds of court cases that went to that were filed against the election, against the fraud of the election. There's nobody on this planet that doesn't believe and understand that the whole damn election was fraudulent, was a lie. But the courts don't want to hear it. Well, of course the courts don't want to hear it. Because why? Because they're all members of the bar. They can't have the election turned over because they want to make sure that their bar members are in office. I'm going to take you back to 1960s. The first president we had that was not an attorney was JFK. That's right, JFK was not an attorney. And what did JFK wanted to do? He wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve. He wanted to get back to the Republic. What happened to him? He was assassinated. Who was the next president that wasn't an attorney? Ronald Reagan. What did they try to do to him? Tried to kill him. Now here's a little catch that most people don't know. Ronald Reagan's chief negotiator was a New York businessman by the name of Donald Trump. So Reagan, I guess you could say, taught Mr. Trump what the truth